Welcome to an overview of the ShedTech software. We see on the screen here a number of designs that the software supports. Portal shed to 25 metres wide, 7 metre wall height, up to 9 metre bays, a garaport with SHS posts out the front, a skillion shed which runs to a 12 metre span, the barn which is a fully enclosed version of it, stud frame building with steel house frame, runs to 9 metres wide, an attached awning which you could retrofit to a masonry or whatever steel building, gable carports that run to a 12 metre span, skillion carports that run to a 12 metre bearer and 9 metre bays. Both the carports go to about a 6 metre height, and also a patio system that runs with double-sided colour-bond long-spanning roof deck or insulated panel. For the purpose of having a bit of a look, we might just go to a good old-fashioned portal shed, and I'll click on that. We need a few details, and you should fill them all in to do the job, but we'll just cheat as you always do and come up with something just quickly. By putting a postcode in, that actually brings up relevant price files for the area that you're quoting in. Clearly 4100 is, say, Brisbane. We'll bring in relevant price files available for the Brisbane area. If we're looking to do it in Victoria, we'd put in the right postcode, but say something like 3100 generically would get us started. We'll see here this beach ball view site in Google Maps. So straight away, when you have a full address, click on that, it will link into Google Earth, and that way you can view shielding and topographical wind category stuff, which we've got to enter in a moment. You'll see up here it has load existing contacts, which means that if you've got the same client back in, you can click on that. We'll bring up the list and populate the screen here for you without having to retype it all. Down at the bottom, we have a finance option available, which is interest-free finance. And if you select the finance, it will bring in the terms and so forth onto the quote and produce the numbers that the offer is made at, depending on the length of term from 6 months through to 36 months. We'll skip all that for the moment. We'll just go to next. And this is a quick way to do the wind zoning, and you'll see here it has less than 3 metres, 3 to 5, or 5 metres plus. We'll just go to a small domestic shed, we'll go less than 3. It has here region A, B and C. Depending on whereabouts you are in Australia, I'm sure you're all familiar with that, or else you'll have to read separately about that. So we'll just go to region B, which is where we are in Brisbane. And within then we have category 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5 and 3 and 4. Typically category 3 is suburban and therefore sheltered scenario. 2.5 is open rural country. These would be the main two zones that you'd use. Possibly category 2, where it's open exposed country with no shielding, no buildings, no nothing. So very open exposed. These are more extreme exposed, and 4 is more shielded. So let's just go with the category, say 3 would be a suburban solution. So we'll go process here, and it'll bring us up a wind speed of 47 metres per second. Okay, so region B runs from about 41 to 50 metres a second standardly. Because we've chosen what we are, the software and the engineering will now work to this design speed of 47. Our software is dynamic and will work to every metre per second as we tell it. I'll click on OK, and it will now bring us up a graphic to start with. Now this is all working through the server, which is actually located in Sydney. Brings up a 6x6 shed to start with. The background colour here is blue. You can change that here in background colour, this whole colour palette. So what we're getting is that we get away from a white background in case we have a white shed. If you want to change the shed colour, you can go here from basalt to say classic cream, and wham, you've got that. Change the gutter to some other colour like deep ocean. The roof, you can view the roof here up on these tabs along the top, so the roof is still in basalt. We can change the roof to some other colour like, I'll make that ironstone. Okay, so go back to our standard elevation. Here's our shed like this. This is a 6 metre by 6 metre long, 2.4 high shed. We can change the pitch from 10 to 15 to 20 degrees, 25 or 30. When we do this, you'll see that the price has changed because it reflects different rafter length, different sheeting length, may incorporate more purlins on the roof, and all those good things. So we'll go back to a 10-degree roof. We'll see here the total price is, say, $4,100 at this time. This is using a trim deck on the roof. We can change it to corrugated if we want to use corro. We can go here to 0.42 corrugated, and the price didn't really change because it's the same cost of materials, and the screws are really the same price as well. We can change the wall sheet if we want to corro, multi-clad trim deck or trim wall. The trim wall probably should be a little bit cheaper, and you'll see it dropped about $100. So there we are. Now we can check this little engineering specification here to see what it's being made of. It tells us up here it's made out of 150/12 column and frame, internal 61 by 1 mil batten. If we were in region A, it probably would be 61 by 0.75 BMT battens, purlins and girts. It tells us we've got a corro roof, we've got trim wall on the walls. Awnings, of course, comes up nothing because we don't have any. Deflections, throughout all the portal frames you'll see that we can have a dead load deflection calculating all the time. It's 3.5 mil load deflection on the roof, which is nothing, and we have a net utilization ratio of 92%, meaning that the frame is working pretty hard. It's achieving at 92% means that we're getting good value for money from our steel. If that steel figure had come up, say 50%, you'd know that there's a lot of overcapacity. We can see here that the regional wind speed for this area B is 57 metres per second, but through the Australian standards, it mitigates back with this terrain multiplier of 0.83 because it's category 3, and reduces the actual design site wind speed to 47 metres per second. We have an other here which is reflecting the ground snow load, and so there we are. Of course, ground snow doesn't happen much in Queensland. For some of you who may be more interested in that, telling us here the battens and their purlin spacing and maximum girt spacing. So okay, we'll close that for a minute. Now I'm going to scroll the mouse forwards and roll the wheel in, and you'll see here's your 3D graphic reflecting the building internally. Everything is here to scale. You can count off and go 1, 2, plus an eave purlin is the walls. So 2 battens on the wall, 1, 2, 3 battens on the roof plus the eave purlin. You can see it's got a bracing is showing, which will be strap bracing in this case, and there we are. Now we can put an awning on this just by simply clicking on here, and that puts up a 3 metre awning. We can actually go through to 6 metres maximum and produce a 6 metre awning. This would be pretty low out here, and you say, oh, I wonder how high that is. We go to this little sprockety thing here and go click, and it says 1.78. So clearly you wouldn't really do that because it's not enough height at the side. We'd need to increase the height of the building, say to 3 metres, and now that awning height is 2.38, which is a lot more serviceable. Okay, well, we'll get rid of that awning for the moment because we're just fooling around, and we'll go back to our building here, and let's look at the idea of putting in some doors and windows. So right click, this menu comes up here, and we can click on here and go doors and windows. We can click on the gable end here, and we can go along the top row of tabs here. We've got a personal access door, domestic roller door, an industrial roller door, a glass sliding window, that was a glass sliding door, and a window and sliding doors. So just to be how you'd normally do this setup would be the domestic roller door. We'll click on that. We'll change the colour from classic cream to deep ocean so we can see it when we put it in there. And we've got these placement buttons along the top here. This one it says hard left when you hover the mouse over it. This one is centre left. This one's in the centre. This one's centre right, hard right. Manuel, he's hard worker who will place it where you want to place it. And we have this kind of like a snip tool that will dimension the location. Because it's a gable and it's a 6 metre shed, it's pretty simple, and we have to click on hard to the left, hard to the right to fit 2 roller doors in the gable end. We'll click on OK, we'll click on OK, and we can now see the doors are placed. We can scroll and look around inside and go, there they are. So what they're doing is the track is running at the sides on the corner post of the shed, and it has a separate mullion. The mullion itself has another stiffening mullion to stop wind blowing in on the gable ends, which is part of the current routine of how we have to design a shed. Of course, we are shed safe, so there's no corners cut, and that's what we've got to do. So that's now put two 2750 by 2750 roller doors in the gable end. So what we can do is we go back to doors and windows, because old mate wants a P door in the side. So we can click on the P door here. Yeah, generally it'll be the same colour as the wall. We'll click on middle of the wall, and there we are. That's it, as easy as that. And we now have a personal access door showing on the bay there. And there it is. This, of course, is cut into the building, you know, you can see because we've got a 3 metre wall height, it looks fairly low in that wall. This means that our roller doors here are 2700 high, and they're also 2700 wide as our default door. We've got about $6,000 for selling price. We can look down here, and the mass is 866 kilos. We have a system number, which is the cost of the building. At all times, margins can be changed in the tools menu here. Managed sales team, my suppliers, my parts, company details, low construction costs, margins and payments. You click into here to kit profit margins, and you can set things that you may want to do. So we're saying 6 metres is 10%. If you want, you can make that 20% or 15%. Bearing in mind everybody's got a cheap 6x6 shed, so it'd probably pay you to, you know, stick with a keen price on that and pick it up somewhere else in other ranges of buildings. So every one of these categories can have your own price and margins applied. So these are just random and set up there. We can go over here, and this little item here tells us the apex height of the building at any time, 3.5 metres, bearing in mind we've got a 3 metre wall height. Again, we can change the pitch. At this time, if we change the pitch, it's going to remove the roller doors, because it's going to change the mullion length here. So we'll have to do that. We have an options button here, and it comes up with a bunch of things like quotas frame only. We'll have a look at see what happens. Any doors not be included, blah, 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 blah. And there we are, we have frame only. So if old mate's got a pile of sheeting, you can buy it as a frame only job, and that's it. We'll go back to take that off. If we want to have vermin proofing, you can click on the vermin proofing here, and that will now put vermin proofing around everywhere but where the roller doors are, obviously. That's good. We can change things here like wall fasteners. If the client wants to have neo on the screws, on the wall screws, that's good, particularly on corrugated walls. Some people like to have bigger screws, being say 12 gauge instead of 10. You'll see on the roof screws here, it's using standard 12 by 14 by 35 for corro, we've got a corro roof on it, or 14 by 45 for a trim deck. You can use the vortex screw as a bigger 14 gauge, or if you're in a cyclonic area, you should be using the cyclonic roof screw with the metal bra washers, which add a bit of cost but are of course stronger. In here we have the purlin and girt type, being top hats where permitted. You can select a Z100 as a default item or a Z150. We have an option here for top hat fixing to always use 14 gauge techs, which are good if you're using heavy gauge purlins and heavy gauge materials beyond, you know, the light C-sections and light gauge battens. Wherever top hats run out of steam, it will go automatically to the Zs, even though you've selected top hats where permitted, and you can then select to either have the Zs fastening with a cleat or just with a square structural washer on the job. Structural washers will save a little bit of money because you won't have the cleats. Some people prefer to use cleats, some people find it quicker, of course, to use just the washers and are happy with that. So that's an option you can take. We go to brackets. We have 3 different types of hold down brackets: the hinge up bracket, the embedded hinge up bracket, meaning it's set into the concrete, and for smaller buildings up to 3 metres height and 9 metres wide, we have an angle bracket with dynabolts, masonry anchors as an option, which is the cheapest option. We have knee and apex selection, traditional folded plate, meaning that it's a galvanised plate in 2.5 or 3mm thickness, or a flat mild steel plate, which they start at 5mm. They're hot dip galvanised and offers an option to the people who don't like or perceive the lighter galvanised plates as not what they want. Mullion fixing, you can have a notch out like that or an underneath fixing. Always use minimum 150 C-section mullions. In lighter wind loads where there's multiple mullions, they may be using 100 Cs, so you can select to always use 150s if you prefer. We go to awnings and we can select from a column as RHS or C-section, which will be cheaper. We can change the sheeting dimension here from nothing when it sits on the slab through to 100mm overlap on the slab. We standardly use 50mm. Others may use 25 or 30mm where they use that plastic vermin proofing. Awning slab. The cement slab for the awning is dropped by 50mm. So where you have an awning, it will drop it by 50mm, so your sheeting will still lap and keep the building waterproof when you have the awning on the side and also on the end for a garaport. Or you can just click that off if you're going to have it fully walled and you want the one level in the slab. Doors, there's some settings here, include wind locks every door, or automatically the software, when you put into a cyclonic area, will know by the postcode selected to include wind locks in the package. Include roller delivery fee on every door quoted. Well, you need to have that. And that's something that manually you can go into if you're in a regional area. You need to check with your roller door supplier like B&D or Gliderol how much they charge for delivery to your town. I think we've put in there about $40 or $50 each, but this can vary and you need to set that accurately. PA doors, side flashings on a single skin PA door. We have that as an option to tick on there, because most people don't use them. A couple of apron flashings for above door. That's just the simple apron, etch-in and tray flashing like some of the people use in the marketplace. Colours, generally just as a wall sheet colour. But you can set all the different colours in terms of the quote later. Domestic corner flashing, this is just a small size, or you've got industrial being a bigger one of the same thing. Other brings us into rain goods here, and you've got a few settings. Two-fold like that, or a four-fold means it has safety edge down here, and it means that on an open carport or a garaport, the bottom of the flashing looks tight and hangs tight, rather than having a bit of a woofy look as you can get with the flashing on the bottom of the beam with this one. So I like the four-fold myself. And again, you get to set the finance to what you're going to do, no finance, or 6 month, 9, 12, 18, 24, or 36 months. By selecting one of these, when you are registered for our Shed Alliance finance package, it will print up the terms and so forth onto the quote and produce that right in Word 1. So that's what's happening in options. I guess for the moment we might say that that's pretty well square one on how to quote a shed. So let's just say our client says that's exactly what they want. It's 3 metres high, it's just 6 by 6 with a 10-degree pitch. We now want to quote this building. So what we do is you go up here to the top line and we go quotes, quote shed, and test, which is still not very flash, and all the address, which we should have, but I'll just glib past that. We're going to need to select a lead source, and if this site address is different, things like that, we have to fill all these in now, which I'm just not going to do on this occasion. So we have a quote number that's going to be raised as 15610. There are reminders here available to call your client back in a week or whatever you got to do to help prompt you, and this will come up on the software in, say, 7 days as a prompt, a reminder. And here's where you can put notes in there for various reasons, which we'll leave out for the moment. So let's just say we're going to quote this. You can straight away save it into a PDF and email it. You can print it. You can add notes to it here. They come up in a couple of sections here, and you could be adding notes like special in running till 2 weeks, or buy it now, get a free whirly bird, insulation option plus a couple of $100 or whatever you've worked it out to be, and those things can be added in through there and will print then on the quote. Go here to save to PDF, and I'll just do this as T on this occasion because that's what I'm going to do. Do you want to replace it? Yes. Continue use. And this is coming up here as a quote with the details for this building. And this is now available to email direct off to the client or print it or sell it to them. It tells us about the wind multipliers, our wind loads, what the materials are basically, and our selections in gutters and colours and so forth. It has a general terms and conditions here. And you can print this out, give it to the client or email to them, they can sign it and date it to go ahead as an order. We have 3 or 4 quote skins available. This particular one is just the old classic style. We have 3 other ones with different coloured skins which you can select up here in our menu when we look at that separately. So now we've quoted the building and we'll say OK, and this will then be saved into our file here in our quotes. All these are saved as active quotes. We can go to search if we want, look up the customer's name, quote number, the quote date. We have quote summary reports. We have a sales team report, so if you have individual salespeople, you can look them up as to what they're doing for you in your business. A shed types report and a lead generation report. It's always handy to know where your advertising is working and what where your leads coming from. The same files are available through orders. Place order obviously is where you place the order for the building when the client gives you money. Again, you can search by customer name, order number and date. You have a whole file of all your active orders are held on the server, and when you click on that it will bring them back from the server, so everything is saved securely off-site. So if you lose your laptop or tip coffee on it or beer or something like that, or someone steals it, basically what will happen is all your data is saved and will be maintained for you. So all you do is refire it up with the password, your login details, and you'll be back in business. Have a sales team report for orders, quote conversion report, shed types report, and lead generation report, which are all worthy of looking at a later time. Tools, margins of payments, we touched on that. You can also set erection costs, slab costs, a discretionary discount margin, payment methods, currencies and taxes. There's quote settings in here, rounding the dollar figure up, and conditions, document layouts, settings, sign-off name, builder's license number, company logo, default settings, a lot of default settings so that you can speed up the quoting process. If you always want to use a corrugated roof, you'll select that in sheeting. If you always use quad guard, you'd select that in here. The colour that it comes up with initially is set in through here. And if you always want to use a 10 or a 15 degree pitch or certain fasteners, you can select all these items before you actually commence quoting. So it'll save you a heap of time, make it easier. Have a help menu here, which takes you to ShedTech, construction guides. There's construction books here for all the major products: portal sheds, gable carport, skilling carport, attached awning, assembling and standing frames, and hold down bracket fixing. There's a library here which shows our ShedTech user guide, which is, about 130 odd pages, and has every functionality and feature covered, indexed, and will mean that you can use this as a Bible to refer to at any time to understand how everything works. It's all fully explained. Component identity reference and suggested flashings, lists all the flashings in the system, and then about ShedTech. And there we are. That's probably another quick rundown on some of the features here. We can go back in and start another quote later and show another building. Along the top here, one of the items I just want to show you is this copy quote button, which means that if you had a job, you've already quoted it, and you want to go back to it and change something, it will restore the quote back to where you were, and you can add another door or add a window to it or whatever, and go forwards on that basis to save you restarting the entire quote. Some of them can get fairly complicated, take a little bit of time. As you can see, the system works very instantly quick, and there's many other features available, which we'll call it in part 2. For the moment, that concludes our overview presentation. We will add to that and show you some of these other products and go into a bit more depth. Thank you for your time.